Hello, fellow humans. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Stories for Life. My name is Pila Anjawit, and I created this channel because I love stories. I love Bible stories, especially because they're filled with drama and all the elements of great experiences. There's excitement, suspense, and great characters, major and minor, who express emotions in various circumstances, all which we can relate to. All the major characters who are basically good people, whose hubris leads them to tragic circumstances. As I said, there's drama, tragedy, and comedy. And yes, plenty of evidence that God does indeed have a sense of humor. I'm starting this series with Cain and Abel. You'll find the story of Cain and Abel in Genesis 4, 1 through 16. And it is the first in a series of the stories that I will be telling from a modern perspective. And I tell these stories to explain and explore themes, share ideas, and analyze content. And I want to whet your appetite, arouse your curiosity enough to make you want to pick up a Bible and learn more. I feel the Bible is about life. It covers every experience we can imagine. It's a guide for living, and it covers every aspect of our experiences, like what we feel, our joy, sorrow, struggles, challenges, and obstacles, and everything that we may have to overcome in life. Every emotion and feeling is covered: love, lust, anger, rage, jealousy, resentment. Yes, even confusion and indecision. It has answers to myriads of questions we may have. How do I manage stress? How do I deal with a coworker who constantly undermines me or sabotages my work? How do I deal with criticism? What is my life's purpose? You can all relate, right? Oh, and disclaimer, I'm not a Bible scholar. I have not held any position of authority in a church or religious establishment. I'm just a curious human, a traveler on a quest for knowledge, inspiration, guidance, and yes, truth. So, and I'm inviting you to join me on this journey. Join the conversation. Leave your comments below. And as you do so, please remember to be kind. There's enough anger and dissension in the world. Let's make this a space of peace. And now, Cain and Abel. Cain was born. His parents, Adam and Eve, showered him with love and attention. He was the apple of their eye. Cain was a happy little boy. Then Abel was born. He was the new baby. He cried a lot. Every time he whimpered, his parents ran to him. They showered him with attention. When Cain cried, his parents said, "Be quiet, you're a big boy now." Cain was confused. He felt his parents didn't love him anymore. And he did not like Abel. It was all his fault. At night, as Cain lay in bed listening to his parents softly singing Abel to sleep, he sobbed. He felt abandoned. They used to sing him to sleep, and now they were with Abel, and he was left in the dark, sobbing himself to sleep. He clenched his teeth, and hate was twisting at his heart. His anger burned deeper as tears rolled down his cheeks. Imagine Cain praying and praying that God would take Abel away. But God didn't take Abel away. As they grew older, Abel grew taller, although Cain was stronger. Cain was a farmer. He worked on the land. It was hard physical labor. Abel was a shepherd herding sheep. He roamed into the hills, played with his sheep, and sat under a cool shade of a pomegranate tree when he needed a break. Cain seldom took breaks. He sweated and labored under the blazing sun. He worked hard from morning till night. and he watched Abel sitting under a pomegranate tree, enjoying the verdant view and the golden silence. Cain watched him and seethed with rage. "Why are you sitting under my pomegranate tree?" he snarled. Abel was startled. "It's not your pomegranate tree. It belongs to God. It gives shade. Anybody can sit under it." Oh, Cain couldn't let that go. "It's my pomegranate tree. I planted it, watered it, took care of it until it grew into the beautiful tree you are now lazing under." Abel shrugged, happily went off with his sheep and thought no more about it. But Cain thought about it a lot. Cain could barely resist the urge to smack his little brother. Ooh, that little... What arrogance and the disrespect in his tone. He went and griped to his parents. "Mom, Dad, Abel's incompetent. He's lazy. What's more, he's disrespectful." Oh, and you can imagine his parents saying, "Oh, be nice to your brother. He's just easygoing. That's his personality. Don't be so hard on him. And don't be such a grouch." Oh, Cain felt his head about to explode. "Oh, God, do something. Why does he always get a pass? It's not fair." A voice inside him said, "Cain, cool it. Cool it, Cain, before you do something rash." Well, imagine the time came when they brought their offerings to God. It was a time to offer thanksgiving to God for his enduring love and mercy and for providing for their existence, providing abundance in their lives. It's a day to bring the best of themselves to God, offerings from their labor, the labor of their hands and from the land. Now imagine this. Cain agonized over his offerings. Should he give fruits and almonds? No. Olives and pomegranates? No, that wouldn't do. Lemons and figs? Oh, he couldn't decide. Pomegranates would be inappropriate. He couldn't offer it to God. Every time he thought about it, he saw Abel lounging under the shade of his beautiful pomegranate tree. Then imagine this. Abel steps forward and offered 2 exceedingly handsome sheep. They were fresh and plump, and they glowed with the innocence of pampered sheep. Everyone was impressed. Cain's heart sank. He saw God smiling at Abel, and he saw God frowning at him. That night, Cain tossed and turned. He couldn't sleep. All he saw was God's face frowning at his offering. So as soon as it was light, he went to look for Abel. He found him standing alone in the field. He thought he saw him bathed in a warm glow of morning sun. Abel turned around and saw Cain looking at him. He smiled his sweet, innocent smile. "Come over here," he said. Come here and feel the sun." No, Cain said. Let's go out over there." Cain was pointing into the hills. Abel cheerfully followed. They walked and walked, and as they walked, Abel grew tired. He asked Cain if they could stop to rest. "Oh, all right, over by that tree," Cain said, walking behind Abel as they made their way to the tree. "Oh, a pomegranate tree. Perfect timing," Abel said as he plopped himself on the ground and lay his head against the trunk. "Ah," he sighed, "this is the life. Just think, Cain, all this is ours. I could just..." At that moment, Cain struck. Abel fell to the ground. After that, There was an eerie silence. Cain froze, the dagger in his hand dripping red dots into the earth soaked with his brother's blood. He looked down at the body of Abel. Abel's eyes stared back at him. Was that forgiveness he saw in his brother's eyes? Cain ran. He ran and ran, but there was nowhere to hide. His parents said, "Where's your brother?" "I don't know." He kept running. And God said, "Cain, what have you done? Where's your brother?" And Cain replied, "I don't know. What, am I my brother's keeper?" Then God said, "I know what you have done. Your brother's here with me. I warned you about your anger. See where it has led you. Now you must live with the consequences. And live with it you must. The guilt, the shame, the pain of that unnecessary act will follow you wherever you go. No one will harm a hair of your head. I will not permit it. But from this day on, everyone will know who you are and what you have done. For all eternity, everyone will know that you, Cain, killed your brother Abel." So that's the story of Cain and Abel. What do you think? In the Bible, the story is quite brief. And when I first heard it, when I was a child, even as a young child, maybe 8 or 9, I'd heard it in Sunday school long before that, but it didn't really start to sink in. I didn't start to ask questions until maybe it was about 8 or 9. And I remember thinking, there's more to this. And I was looking at it from Cain's point of view. And why was that? Because I was the firstborn. And I was naturally wanted to know what Cain was experiencing, because I could fill in the gaps as a firstborn. I know the expectations that my parents had of me, and I imagined that Adam and Eve would have had the same expectations of their firstborn, Cain. So if you're a firstborn, you know what I'm talking about. There's this expectation that your parents have of you. You have to be responsible and set an example. But from their point of view too, you're their first child. They haven't had practice at parenting. There's no precedence. So you're their first crack at this parenting thing. But for you, it's a burden. It's a huge load to carry. So how do you cope? How did Cain cope? So let's explore that. Let's look at it from Cain's point of view. Cain was an unhappy boy. He was plagued with self-doubt, consumed with anger and resentment. So much so that he failed to see the gifts and the blessings all around him. The Bible says, that story says that God wasn't pleased with Cain's offering. It didn't say he rejected Cain. It said that he didn't look with favor on his offering. His offering. Why? I think it's because Cain gave it with clenched fists instead of open hands. He gave his gift with a stifled heart, shriveled and wrinkled with rage against his brother, poisoned with fear and doubt and self-loathing. He couldn't even hear God's love in the admonition, if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. That's the admonition. It's not that he was a bad person. It's not that he had no right to be angry or to feel inadequate. It's saying, yes, you may feel these things, but you must master them. Cain's offering didn't impress God because it was given sullenly and perhaps also out of a sense of duty. So, what sin is crouching at your door? Is it jealousy, envy, greed? Are you resenting someone for what they have instead of noticing the gifts and blessings in your life that you take for granted? Whatever your sin is, you need to confront it head on, or it will eat you up, it'll destroy you. And listen to that still small voice, that part of you that knows better, that knows that the God who created you for good is there encouraging you, cheering you on, and summoning you to victory, to claim power over that sin. Master it. Show it who's boss. I believe we each have gifts we were born with. Some of us go on to express those gifts unhindered. Cain was a farmer. What a marvelous calling, to work with the soil and grow food for us to eat. He possessed everything he needed to do it well. And he did. Abel was a shepherd. His gifts were just as marvelous, perfect for his line of work. I imagine Abel just reveled in his work and just cherished it, and he pursued it for the love of it. Whilst Cain, on the other hand, pursued his work for the approval of others. Cain looked at Abel and thought only of his own inadequacy. And I see some of that in my life, especially when it comes to appreciating the gifts that I have, or the gifts that I've been given. For years, I didn't appreciate my artistic gifts. I found them lacking. I found them unimportant. I mean, artists don't cure cancer. Artists don't heal people. That's a rather simplistic way of looking at it. And for many years, that's the way I saw it. It wasn't until later, much later in life, after I'd probably suffered emotionally, physically, psychologically, certainly mentally, because of my own self-doubts and my own feelings of inadequacy. It wasn't until years later I realized, actually, artists do heal in a different way from scientists or doctors. After decades of unhappiness and self-loathing, I slowly came to realize that my creative gifts were sacred. Only I could do them in a certain way unique to me. Actually, I began to not care whether people valued my artistic gifts. My gift is separate from who I am. So writing, performing, dancing, painting, now all bring me joy. If I didn't do those things, I would still be me. God would still love me. Those gifts were given to me to bring more joy into my life. I can be grateful for those gifts and still choose not to use them. I can still be happy. That's what Cain didn't understand. And I think this is one of the messages being conveyed in the story. What gifts do you have that's languishing or that you minimize because you think they're of no value or because people don't think they're of any value? Whom do you resent for their gift? I encourage you to step forward with your gift. I don't mean send me donations, don't send me any money. I'm not asking for money from you. I'm inviting you to offer whatever gift you have. Offer your gift to the world. You can even just enjoy your gift in secret. Do it without expectation of praise or reward. Doesn't matter. Do it for the pure joy of it. If it brings you joy, it pleases God. When your heart is filled with contentment and full with gratitude, and knowing that God has chosen this gift for you, that only you can express in this particular way, this gift that's uniquely yours, you won't have room for guilt, fear, envy, or resentment. What if I said, you choose not to use your gifts? Is that a sin? Doesn't another Bible story address this very idea? Well, I'll give you my take on this in another episode. But going back to the story of Cain and Abel, what other messages do you get from this story? Let me know. Share your feelings. Feel free to express yourself. But remember, as I said, be kind. We're all here to learn. So see you next time. I'm Pila Anjewit, and this is my take on the story of Cain and Abel.